today we are going to go over NetDocs Workspace Security Manager, or WSM as its abbreviation. Now, before we start, we'll go over the usual what's going on with NetDocs, what's going on with Optiable, and then what other events. Events have not changed since then. All right, so how do we find out NetDocs? What's new in NetDocs? And then NetDocs keeps a what's new page, which is nice. 2025 web refreshes. See what we got coming out. So that was September 2nd. I think everyone saw this. This is really the newest thing. This has been the same for the last couple webinars. Continue with SSO, new way to log in via single sign-on. And if you are using DocuSign, there is a way to clear a DocuSign document that's been sent to DocuSign. Other than that, like on announcements, let's see. There's some updates in Pattern Builder, update in the M365 Outlook plugin, and there was a chat link update September 12th. Chat link is the integration with NetDocs with Teams. So it doesn't, all right, so there's some, this tells you all the updates here. I need to actually, for this one, we should do the same one for WSM, but so we're going over today. Nothing really new. We just been really, really busy. So NetDocs tips, I don't think there's anything new. Just on following collab spaces with folders. And our events are pretty much the same. WSM right now, at the end of the month, we have an office hours. Not doing webinars in the middle of the month because of the Clio conference and the NetDocs conference, which we are attending as a company. So that's why those Wednesdays, one of them will be at ClioCon, one will be at the NetDocs conference. So we'll start back up at the end of this month with the office hours. Cannot believe it is already October 1st. All right. So there is a manual that goes along with WSM. I'm working on updating it. Now, if you went to the training last year, you're like, didn't he say that last year? It's just, it gets harder. You know, it was easy when it was NetDocs, and that's the manual. That's we updated. Now NetDocs is like 15 different products. And so we're always, I feel like, behind on updating, especially because NetDocs is changing things all the time. But the WSM manual is almost completely done. Workspace Security Manager. So I will be following that. And basically what we've ended up doing is taking what NetDocs has, which we've usually find is a little overtly technical, and dumbing it down so people like me can understand it. That's what I'm writing these manuals for. So, and let's start off with what is Workspace Security Manager? So I guess the easiest way to explain and how this evolved, because Workspace Security Manager is a relatively new product. If you came to NetDocs from either a prior DMS like eDocs or WorldDocs, or if in your Windows folder environment, you might have had a matter that was blocked off. Because my phone is on Do Not Disturb, but it's still disturbing, right? So you had a matter blocked off. So maybe you got a new attorney at the firm, the attorney had a conflict of interest, and they're like, I can never see anything in this matter. It can't come up in searches, that sort of thing. So from when I started working with NetDocs in 2010, and really till now for the implementation side of thing, we set up something called profile-based security. Now, the way to know if you have profile-based security is, well, and you know, instead of just telling you, why don't I show you? I do have it here. Let me show you an example of profile-based security. So I would go into users and groups. I'd come over to groups, okay? And you've probably seen this if you all look in your NetDocs. And I'm really good about creating a group like client demo. Okay, ethical wall 1001-103. All right. So that's an ethical wall. So the first thing we do is we come over here and we create a group. And in this instance, I need to block Craig Bayer and Wayne Jarvis from accessing this matter. So I create the group. Now, the next step is I come over to the client's cabinet and I add that group with no default access. And then my next step is I go into profile attributes. I find the matter table. Now, it could be the client table, okay? But in this instance, I'm going to find the matter table. I will find that matter. I'm just going to use this one as an example. And then under access, I'm going to type in this string and do that, which basically means that, and I know I did the wrong one. That one might not even exist, but I'm saying in this matter, I don't want anyone who's a member of this group to see the matter. The way the security is being applied is when someone saves a document, okay, and we choose our profile attributes, 1003 client, 102 matter, NetDocs applies that security. So right now, there were a ton of steps here, okay? You had to create a group. You have to then add that group to the cabinet. You then have to go into the profile tables and add that security string, which is a little nerdy. And then there's a fourth step. If there's any documents in this group, you then have to go and add the ethical wall to all existing documents, because this is only dealing with stuff going forward. So I've got to get all the existing documents. That was the normal NetDocs profile-based security. I mean, I'm used to it, so I can't say it's the most efficient thing in the world to do, but I know how to do it with the back of my hand, so I'm used to doing it. And a lot of document migrations, we still set it up that way, okay? Because it's just the easier when you're doing the document migration. Once the document migration is done, we are starting to train people to use Workspace Security Manager. So NetDocs had this profile-based security to create ethical walls. It was complicated, and so companies like Intap started developing their own walls products to make it easier for everyone to create ethical walls. That's where NetDocs decided to build a product called Workspace Security Manager, so that to make it a lot easier for NetDocs admins to create an ethical wall. So the first thing I want to go over in this training is, do you have Workspace Security Manager? Another thing that I'm just starting to notice with NetDocs and my clients is very few clients had Workspace Security Manager. So it wasn't something I had to deal with a lot. That's changing now, where most new customers are getting Workspace Security Manager. And if you're upgrading a NetDocs package, you're going to get Workspace Security Manager added to your package. So how do you know if you have it? In the admin console, information and settings, then we're going to come over to information. And if you have a green check mark next to Workspace Security Manager, that means you have Workspace Security Manager. That is step one, okay? You know that you have Workspace Security Manager. The next step is enabling Workspace Security Manager, and it's pretty easy to do. If we come over to the Security Center and it's not enabled, so this is where they keep the button here, it's going to tell you, I forget what it says. So it says like need to set up or something like that right here. Okay. That's what you have to do. So how do you set it up? in NetDocs, I'm going to come over to users and groups. I've got my settings here, but I'm pretty sure I know this. I'm going to come over to groups, and I am going to create a group called WSM managers. All right. And as of right now, I'm the only member, but for this training to work, probably should add Wayne. All right. So Craig and Wayne are the only people that can basically edit and create ethical walls. Now, the other thing in details is when you create this group, members are allowed to manage WSM policies. So you create a specific group in NetDocs. You don't have to call it WSM managers, but you do have to check off this option. And then you go to members and you have to add the people that you want to be able to create ethical walls. Let me just hit save because I did make a change. All right. Now, the other thing you have to do is then go into each cabinet where you want to run WSM. And you want to add that group to the cabinet. Okay, so this should be Workspace Security Manager added, no default access, and then hit save. We have no problem doing this for you. Okay. So then the other thing is you have to log out of NetDocs and log back in. So if you do all these steps and then you try to go in there and you're going to be like, Craig's full of crap again. Nah, you got to log out and log back in. And then you will be able in the admin console to go to Security Center and click on Workspace Security Manager. All right, so far we've gone over, what does Workspace Security Manager do? Have you purchased Workspace Security Manager? And the one-step setting you've got to do one time to turn it on. All right, so now that I have it turned on and we open it up, the first thing I want to do here is come over and choose which cabinet. Now I have it turned on for 2 cabinets. Could I turn it on for all cabinets? I could, but I mean, I'm only turning Workspace Security Manager on for workspace-based cabinets. All right, so that's let's just talk about that for a second. What you use it for, what you don't. So at Optiable, I have a client cabinet, which is our real client, which is workspace-based, client and matter-based. I have a client's demo cabinet, which is client and matter-based, workspace-based cabinet. And then I have NetDocs, prospects, and users, folder-based cabinets, can't use Workspace Security Manager on. I can only use Workspace Security Manager on those cabinets. Now, for the folder-based cabinets, if we just come in here, we're not saying that you can't apply security here because you 100% can. I don't have access to, let's see here. What do I have access to? All right, so I can go into a folder-based cabinet and I can come over to modify access and I can change the security on folders. So you still have the ability to set security. You're just not using WSM. All right, so let's come back over. Click on the 3 lines, Security Center. We will choose the first option, Workspace Security Manager. And then the next thing we are going to do is choose which cabinet we want to apply this policy to. And we're going to go through and create a policy right now. The other thing I want to bring up is the bulk apply policies option right now. Okay, the bulk apply policies option, and I do have it in my manual, is the ability to create a CSV file or Excel file, fill out a certain group of columns, and then mass upload this. So for those of you, maybe I could see the disaster. Okay, I've got this one attorney this one attorney can't see these 320 matters. Like that might be a lot of work. Well, you could create that in an Excel file. So then maybe someone like me could chop through that in like an hour instead of having to go through each policy. The other thing I'll talk about in this scenario, and in most of my scenarios, I'm in a client matter structure. There's a few of you that are just client, but most people are client matter. You can set up an ethical wall to a client, and that will hit all the matters below it. And that is always the easiest way. Like this attorney is joined the firm, has a conflict of interest with this client. Now, this client has 400 matters. I'm not creating 400 ethical walls. I am creating one attached to the client, which will trickle down. And then it also makes it easy once you add more matters. You don't have to worry about going in there and going in and creating it for each one. So there's a CSV file. I have it in the manual, and I'm just going to create a sample CSV file to fill out. It gets a little technical, but it's not that bad. All right, so we want to create a policy here. So under create policy, I'm going to choose create blank policy. What is this going to do? It is going to create a brand new policy. That's what we're going to do today. Create existing policy. Okay, that would be we could copy a policy, ethical wall policy, and create a new one. Create from workspace. All right, well, this is good for the example. If you're using profile-based security right now, you need to create a new ethical wall. Can you just copy all the security from a previous workspace and use that to create the ethical wall? So that might be these 4 users have view rights, these 8 users have full rights, and these 3 users have no rights. Well, can we just copy that over so we don't have to create it? And then create policy from CSV is again the same thing as that bulk upload. We could just upload an individual policy that we have in a CSV file. That way we don't have to create it all the time. And sometimes in Excel, it's just easier to edit stuff. All right, create blank policy. Here we go. Policy name. Now, if you have any of my security manuals, I have specific policy names, okay? And so let me pull this for an ethical wall, all right? This is client, so I'd actually change this to be realistic here. So client's demo, even though it's there. This is the cabinet name. What am I creating? An ethical wall. So this is an exclusionary wall where I'm saying anyone that's a member of this wall, when it says ethical wall, to me, it means who's ever a member of this cannot see this matter, okay? And we're going to come over here and we're going to say, Jeff, I don't know if Jeff is a member. Let's just do this. Okay, Craig Bayer has a conflict. This is where you should fill this out with this matter, comma, not the client. So we are blocking Craig from this matter. All right. Now, that's the naming convention right here. Cabinet, what we're doing, and what client and matter is it attaching to. I know this client and matters is wrong. Let's just come over here so I'm doing it super correctly. All right. So this is the ethical wall example that I want to give you. All right, copy, cancel. So ethical wall, and then what I would put in here, I like to put in the exact client and matter, and then like the client and matter description. So when I'm looking at these walls, I know exactly that what this wall in the client demo cabinet, this ethical wall is securing this matter, that I can go to it. Now, once we fill that information out, the basically the policy or ethical wall name, and then the description, we've got some options under settings, okay? So let's go over those. Okay. Send effective rights report by email. All right. Once you have set up this policy and you've enabled it, NetDocs is going to email you and only you an email saying, hey, you set up this ethical wall and this is what this wall is doing. That's a great thing to forward to maybe someone like a company you're working with that asks you to create the wall, but it's just a record outside of NetDocs in email saying, hey, this is what the ethical wall does. All right, second option, allow need to know collaboration via collab spaces, okay? If you turn this on, you prevent collab spaces, if you're using it, from being created for this matter. So a collab space is the ability to create like a client portal for a matter where someone can upload or download documents. Lock policy, and I am going to turn this on. This basically, when you do this, you prevent anyone from going into any document in this matter and changing the security. The only way security can be changed is through the Workspace Security Manager. So what you're saying is after the ethical wall is in place, no one can come over because like a NetDocs admin, even this is what I guess we're worried about is we're blocking, and this one right here, we're blocking Craig Bayer from the matter. But what we're doing here is we're saying if someone comes over to modify access, like someone who is not Craig Bayer, they can't back end and add Craig back to it. We're saying the only security that can be applied to this matter is through Workspace Security Manager. So someone can't go in and just back end and add Craig back to it. All right. So the next thing, users not on this policy can add content to the workspace. Users not on the policy can add content to the workspace. We're going to check that one off. All right, so that's one or the other. All right, well, I'm going to have an FAQ for ethical walls, and I'm going to ask that one. I didn't even know that setting's there. I don't have it in my manual, and I didn't see it. Users not on the policy can add content to the workspace. Well, I would hope so, because I'm blocking Craig Bayer. Everyone else is not on the policy, and they should be able to add content to the workspace. But maybe we got to leave it at this for right now. So let's. I don't know the answer to this. I guess maybe I've never scrolled down and seen that one part there. So I'll leave that off for now. And then I'm going to create an FAQs question page. That'll be a web page. And then that'll be like the first thing. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is come over to access. And I am going to choose who to block here. Now, the other thing I want to just come back over is if we go to any matter in this workspace here, we can see the security. This is regular base security here. So more, and I'm going to come over to modify access, clients cabinet, demo. Like, so that's basically everyone that has access to the client cabinet has access to this document. And Wayne Jarvis was probably the person that created the document. That's how we look at the security here. If we did the normal profile-based security, we would still have to come over here and modify this. Like, and this is how I would modify it. Like, let's come over to, this is new on security, only internal users. Okay. And then I'm going to come over to Craig Bayer. Okay. And I'm going to do no access. So that's blocking Craig from this one document. The ethical wall is going to come over here and block it for the entire matter. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is come over to access, search for users and groups. This got me confused before the training because I'm only seeing groups right now, which you could choose a group here, but I want to just block Craig Bayer. So I'm going to click on the filter, uncheck groups, and just show me users. Okay. And then I'm going to come over, and unfortunately, All right, well, I'll just have to toggle then because I don't want to go through. There we go. Craig Bayer, no access. You know what? Let's add Angie as well. Because Angie is Craig's assistant, and so Angie can't see it as well. All right, so I'm going to come back over to the details. All right, so we've gone over, we've had our access details here, and now I'm going to hit save, and we have created this policy. Now, we're not done. Workspace is applied. So this also would change the way I did this. Maybe I need to block off multiple workspaces. Well, then I wouldn't have put the workspace name in the policy. But this policy is super specific for this workspace. If it was for 17 different workspaces, I would have adjusted the name, also using the description to be super specific. So we're going to come over to workspaces now. And this is where it's going to list all of the workspaces here. And this is where we're going to come over and apply the policy. So which policy do we want to apply? And I want to choose this one here. So now we've applied this policy to that workspace. So this is showing you here a list of all the workspaces in the client cabinet and which ones have policies and which ones don't. The good thing here is you can sort here, but we can see where the ethical wall policies are. Manage policies is just going to jump into the policy that we created. Now, when does the ethical wall take place? Like, how long does it take? That's all right. So there you see that we've blocked the access for these users. So it's automatically jumped in there. Now, I've messed up this ethical wall. Does anyone want to tell me what I did wrong? This is the nice thing about Workspace Security Manager is that when I messed up profile-based security, I'd have to reapply it to all the documents. So can anyone guess what I did wrong? Because I did something wrong here. We're going to go to modify access. Use the Q&A or the chat. It says this in the ethical wall manual and also the one that NetDocs has. I'll paste the NetDocs one in the chat. I think ours is a little bit better. I blocked Craig and Angie from the matter, but I didn't say what group to keep. So in a sense, I blocked everyone from the matter. I mean, and then I'm logged in as Wayne Jarvis. Since I am a Wayne, the user I'm logged in is a cabinet administrator, which is why I can come over here. And I haven't logged out of NetDocs and logged back in. Let's see if it lets me. Yeah, because I haven't changed anything yet. But the this would be a bad ethical wall to do. So what we're going to do is come back in here, come back into policies. All right. I'm going to come over to edit and let's come back to access. All right. Now what I want to do is choose cabinet default access. Okay. And leave this on here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna say leave the cabinet default access, but then add Angie and Craig as the people that can't see it. If you miss that step, you're going to create these ethical walls and you've just blocked everyone from the matter. So you always have to come in here and go and say, these people can see it, these people can't. The the exception would be if you're creating what we refer to as a matter where, let's just say, only this group of people can see the document. So I'm just going to create a fake policy. So create blank policy, and we'll do this clients demo. Replace access 999-001 Bluth LLC formation. All right. So only members of the litigation, or let's say the corporate. I don't know why I'm making stuff up. The corporate team can see this matter. In this case, I'm going to come over to access, and then I'm going to switch this to users. All right. And then I'm going to say, all right, Milica, VESA. Just switch this to internal. And Paul, VESA. This is perfect for this type of group because NetDocs is going to go in and just say only these two users can see the matter. I'm not adding it in here. So that is kind of the difference in the policy. In the first one, so replace access is we're replacing the entire access with these two people. The ethical wall here, leave the cabinet default access, but add these two people with no access. That's the correct way to do the ethical wall. I got burned on that so many times. So when I do the training, I'm like, let's make sure that we know those two examples. Now in the manual, I have a screenshot with both those two examples. More, let's come over to modify access. All right. This is the cool part of ethical walls is I'm making these changes in the background and then they're just getting changed in NetDocs. So now the ethical wall is back, all right, where it is actually securing everything properly. So it's got everyone can see this, block Craig and Angie. Other thing I really like about Workspace Security Manager is that let's come over to this agreements filter, drop down. Let's come over to modify access. See, profile-based security, I have to granularly hit all the documents, then come back in and hit all the workspace filters. This is just applying it to the whole thing at once. And then let's see if it's coming over here, drop down, and we're going to come over to modify workspace access, and it's hit the workspace access too. I have to do these three things separately when I'm using profile-based security. Hit all the documents, then hit all the filters, then hit the workspace. Workspace Security Manager just makes it super easy to do that. And let me just come back in here, back to this ethical wall. I wonder, because if I've done this correctly now, users not on the policy can add content to the workspace. And if we knock that, so I'll put, why does it do that? I mean, okay, no, this makes sense. This totally makes sense. Users not lock policy. This is what I would have done here. This means that users not on the policy. Well, everyone is on the policy here. The default client cabinet is on the policy, so all the users are there. So this would have been the correct way. Now I'm not as confused. I apologize if I've made you confused, but this makes sense. Because the policy is everyone, and then we block these two, we want to lock the policy. Users not on the policy can add content. Well, I wouldn't want anyone to be able to do that. So I'm going to lock the policies. So these are the only, this is the correct way of doing it. But I will try to flesh that out a little bit better and put it in the FAQs. All right. Any questions about WSM or creating ethical walls? Usually I like to take this opportunity, and you can use the chat to type something in, because the FAQs are usually the questions I get in these trainings. So like if you've been to the collab space or set builder training, like all the questions I got here, I used for like the FAQ section in the manual on the web page. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time today. You'll get this video mailed out tomorrow. Oh, let me do this in the chat. Let me at least put this in there, because we have this right now. This is in the chat. That's the NetDocs WSM or Workspace Security Manager manual. Again, we just got in and rewritten it so that this is a little more, I would feel like, intuitive. All right. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much.